Tell me, how did Slim and Huskies come to be?
So Slim Huskies came about to understand Slim Huskies. You have to understand like kind of our background as young adults. So uh, Derek, Mo, I'm calling Mo, EJ, and I. We basically went to school at Tennessee State University. We were at school. We always talked about owning our own business. So the first business we started was about 4 years after we graduated. Everybody was working. Um, you know, full-time jobs, their career entry-level jobs. And we basically were just kind of unhappy where we were positioned in life. And, we talked a big game about these businesses we were going to start when we got out of college, and we did it like everything, the exact opposite of that. So, Mo reached out to us. He had moved to Detroit Saginaw, Michigan to be a air traffic controller. And he was like, man, I'm just unhappy, right now. Like, let's take our stab in business. I'm gonna move back home. I'm getting homesick. So, you know, what can we do? And so we started brainstorming, and we came up with the bright idea we thought at the time was to start a moving company. And so that moving company grew. We all put about $1,000 in. That's all we had at the time. And so we had $3,000 to start this brand new business. We bought a website. We, basically printed out some flyers, and we ran a Groupon. This is back when Groupon was super, successful. And so I would say in a summer day, in about, um, 12 hours, we ended up booking about 200 moves. And it was just me and EJ and Mo. And so we had no moving trucks, no helpers, no anything. And so we just made a commitment to, we're going to do these 200 moves. And rather than worrying about how much money we make, we're just going to make sure that all the service level was, really high, and people would like write positive things about us online. So we ended up building that business. Fast forward, we built that business. We named it Green Truck. It was an eco-friendly moving company. We started with $3,000. We ended up selling it for seven figures. 7 years later, we had moved in, elevated to like storage. Had like a 10 truck operation. 50 employees, and we sold it 7 years later. And we took those proceeds and reinvested into something that we really wanted to do. We were always interested in hospitality, and that's where Slim Husky, the idea of starting a pizza company, came about. And so we basically went into it understanding like we want to open up a pizza shop, and we want to do it with like kind of like that build your own flavor, because it has become more popular. But instead of going to like commercial areas, we wanted to take advantage of our roots in our neighborhood. We were like, let's open up this shop in North Nashville. And North Nashville is basically a historically Black community. It's home to Tennessee State University, Meharry Medical College, Fisk University, American Baptist College, and just tons of proud African Americans that live in a majority white city. And so, we opened that pizza shop, and over the years, North Nashville has become more of a haven for crime and drug use. And we wanted to change that, so we opened up on the corner of 10th and Buchanan Street, which was notorious at the time for just high crime rates. And so there wasn't another business that was actually open for maybe like 10 to 12 blocks. So that kind of gives you the idea of like where we originally set up shop. And so we would give out pizzas. We bought a garage. We didn't know anything about making pizza, so we would give out pizza and to the neighborhood and for free, just to test out, let us know what they liked about it. And people started enjoying it, taking it to like community meetings. Our pizza started becoming like a symbol, where they represented, positivity that brought together groups that just moved to the neighborhood through gentrification, and those that had been there for 30 plus years, that were, resisting, gentrification. So, we instantly became a community staple. And from day one, we opened with a line down the street. And people not only just liked what we were trying to do, but they also loved the pizza. We created a product that people just fell in love with. And so that's kind of how we got started. And, we decided to name the restaurant Slim Huskies because it's basically a story about who we are as entrepreneurs. EJ's a skinny dude. Me and Mo, growing up, our moms used to shop for us in the Husky section for clothing. We played all the big kid sports like, wrestling and football. And so it was always a joke between us as kids, and we just wanted to, basically create that story / business that could benefit the neighborhood and kind of bring economic, empowerment to our culture.
And so, how long would you say you guys have been business partners, not just friends, but business partners?
So we've been business partners since 2010. That's when we originally uh, first started our first business. And so Slim Huskies has been officially open for 3 years, a little bit over 3 years. And in that time, we've been able to open 6 restaurants in 3 years. So it's been a fun ride, doing business with the homies, but it's also been a very busy one.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell me, and you all, you talk a lot about where you guys grew up in North Nashville, and you talk about Meharry Medical College and Fisk, but you all went to TSU, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Tennessee State is, that's part of who we are. You know, one of our secret tools that we, people may realize, but may not. But when we open up restaurants, particularly in the South, we have a huge alumni base that is very supportive and wanting to make sure that we succeed. And so markets like Nashville and Atlanta have been successful for us, because we get to start off with our own, you know, this fan base of people that are rooting for us from Tennessee State. And same goes, we're opening in Memphis in like 60 days, and Memphis has the largest Tennessee State University Alumni Association, so we're gonna
Oh, I
have
didn't
a
realize
big
that.
party down there.
Yeah. Well, the HBCU love is real. I'm HBCU grad myself, so hey.
Okay. Where was this? Where was that?
I went to Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina.
Oh, that's nice. That's what's up.
Mhm.
South
Yeah.
Carolina is beautiful. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, so every once in a while I miss it. I couldn't wait to get out of there, but every once in a while I miss it. So like you said, you guys have started 6 restaurants in 3 years, which like you said, that's a lot in such a short time. But you recently opened your newest location here in the Oak Park neighborhood of Sacramento. So what made you all decide on Oak Park?
So basically, we've been wanting to expand to the West Coast for a while. We felt like the South and the West Coast was kind of like where we could be very successful. Pizza hasn't really, there's nobody that really dominates the pizza industry in the South. And we felt like our character and personalities of who we are, fit well on the West Coast. We always travel West, and, more than any, we typically go to like Los Angeles or the Bay Area. And so when we start looking at, different areas in California, we came across Sacramento, and, the Oak Park neighborhood seemed to have some thriving Black-owned businesses. And there was a location across the street that, from the restaurant Popular Fixings and the Black-owned bookstore, and the Black-owned theater, the Guild. And we fell in love with that because we've always been a big component of the Black Wall Street movement, and we wanted to be around other thriving Black-owned businesses. And in a historic African American neighborhood just seemed like the right fit. So we started to notice that maybe focusing on the city with the largest population may not be the best thing for our brand at this point. We felt like Sacramento was a great place where we could come be who we are. It felt like home, and we could, basically build our roots here and do some good for the community, provide some jobs, and, hopefully be able to use that as a platform to expand, throughout California and other places out west.
hmm And so what has the response been since you guys opened up?
The response has been awesome. We did a community event on last Friday where we fed over 1,000 people. We gave out over 1,000 pizzas to local just community organizations, fire department, UC Davis Medical, essential workers, some of the preschools and daycares around the area, and several organizations that we felt like Salvation Army, that we felt like are very just core or core groups within the neighborhood. And so that went really, really well. That started to kind of spread the news that we were here. And then opening day, the soft opening went well. We invited a lot of the businesses in the Oak Park area to come visit us and find out more about us and taste our product. And then yesterday was opening day, and I mean, it was just massive. Um, we had a line down the block, and I think the most exciting thing about it is, I feel like we did a good job in regards to our service level and understanding our um, just our systems. So happy and proud of our teams that we hired. We brought on about 75 people, and that some of those are high school students, some of them are just members of the neighborhood and looking for new opportunities. And everybody was just happy to be there and just really bought into what it is we're trying to do, and that's provide an excellent service and set the bar to what it means to be a Black-owned business.
Mm-hmm. So what makes Slim Huskies different from every other piece of chain?
Slim Huskies is, like I said earlier, it's a story. It's a story about, me, EJ, and Mo, and we get a chance to live out who we are through the brand. We are, hardworking, humble guys that come from not rich at all, but proud families, that work their way through life to be able to, just, have strong families. And so, we instill those same values with the people that come to work for us every day. We tell them, if you're working with us, we want you to get better for yourself and be better for your families day in, day out. And if you want to make this a career move for you, then we're here for you. But if you don't, we hope that when you leave that you picked up on some things that makes you, even better of a person. And so, that's just part of it. And then also the other piece of who we are is just we grew up loving hip hop and R&B music. We're 80s babies, but we fell in love with the 90s. And, we like to listen to our music loud. Our moms used to come in and tell us cut that music down or cut your stereo down in the car, whatever the case is. But we just like to bring those vibes and experiences to our restaurant. So when you come into Slim Huskies, you're gonna hear hip hop music, R&B music, and not just your typical things that you would hear from the East and West Coast. Like we're from the down south from the Third Coast, so we play inspirational people that inspired us are like Master P, T.I. and Outkast and Underground Kings. These are things that we fell in love with back in the day, and we just lived through that. We let that live through from us through the restaurants. And so our theme is pizza, art, and music. So you're gonna get good pizza, you're gonna get local, like really, really good art, and also you're gonna get great music. So I think that's what kind of embodies Slim Huskies and as a whole.
You mentioned a community. You mentioned a community event that you all did last week, but I can tell from your website that you all really do like to try to become a part of the communities where your restaurants are located. So what other ways are you all planning to get involved here in the Oak Park or in the Sacramento community at large?
So one of the things that we really liked was that we were right in front of Sac High. So they're located right behind us. And, one of the things that we like to do the most is have lunch and learns with high school students to kind of, just give them opportunity to sit down, have a meal, and like hear like just, what it really means to own your own business. Like basically, what is an entrepreneur? Like so many, young people, especially in communities, especially in communities that like resources, they have big ambitions, but there's, they're not exposed a lot to, what it takes to make those dreams happen. And so, we feel as though we've been blessed to be successful. So it's on us to pass that knowledge down. And so we look forward to, setting up some meetings with Sac High and the students there and just help them, if they're interested in business or if they just want to know how to, maneuver through life and be successful. I think we have the knowledge to be able to give them, and what better way to do that than talk about it while you're eating some pizza.
Especially if it's good pizza.
Good pizza.
I know the story that I wrote yesterday, I mentioned some of the names of the pizzas, and one of my colleagues said, I want to try it simply because they have a pizza called Roni, Roni, Roni,
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about how you guys came up with the names of your pizzas and the other items like the desserts and things like that at the
Yes.
restaurant?
Yeah. So we love to be creative with like small stuff like menu items. And so the Roni Roni Roni, of course, is a tribute to Tony, which we found out, I think one of the members is from Sacramento, which is super cool. And then also the California Love is just a tribute to, Tupac Shakur's song. We kind of made the ingredients based off of things that like tomatoes and pesto, things that are popular in the Sacramento area. I'm sorry, in the California area in general. And then, we've got the Nothing But a V thing that is, just pays homage to Snoop Dogg's Nothing But a G thing. And so, and then even like smoke and herb is like one of those things where, we've always been big components of, people being able to, like, I guess treat different illnesses and things through like medicinal marijuana, things like that. So we call one of our pizza the smoke and herb. So, we've got several different descriptions of items on our menu that are just tied back to who we are as a person in 90s culture. And then the preem is pizza rules everything around me. Our motto is also on our signature pizza list, but that's just a high five to Wu-Tang Clan, and cash rules everything around me. So everything that we do, we try to bring a full circle.
And I also learned that you guys collaborated with Oak Park Brewery on a beer for the restaurant. Can you tell me how that collaboration came about and tell me about the beer?
Yeah, Oak Park Brewery, those some awesome people down there. They make a really good product, and them being neighborhood oriented, they reached out to us and asked, could we do a collab? And it sounds great because our name is our original name is Slim Huskys Pizza Berea. So we basically we coined the term. It's a fusion between beer and pizzeria. So we Slim Huskys Pizza Berea, and we love to have local breweries represented in our establishments. We don't sell any domestic products, so you won't see anything like Budweiser or Miller or Coors in our establishments. We focus on pushing the local entities, and so when they gave us that opportunity and we got together and worked with another local artist, Leon with SH Graphics, and we put together a super cool can that represented us and represented our space. And what makes it even better is that the beer is like really good. It's a West Coast inspired IPA, and we just call it the West Coast Preem IPA.
Okay, very fitting.
Thank you.
And can you tell me about some of the artists, because I know that artwork, like you said, is a big part of your brand. So can you tell me about some of the local artists you work with who did paintings for the inside of the restaurant?
Yes, absolutely. So we worked with several West Coast artists, several California-based artists. Taylor Mines, she owns Taylor Mines Studios. She basically did a mural in our bathroom with several canvases and just basically, showing, empowerment to women. And there's another artist by the name of Jupiter who he created a piece that's actually called Saint Laurent Pimpin'. And that was very interesting name, but it's a nod to just the fashion industry and who we are as a pizza restaurant within the pizza industry. We feel as though we have a little swag, in comparison to some of our counterparts. But he created that piece. It's awesome. Bammer is another local artist who you see his work very often in the Oak Park community, but he created a piece called Pizza Party. And it's just, several like depictions of characters in his style that are eating our pizza with, the names of the pizza and lots of colors. It's great. Then we brought in another guy named Milton Bowen, who he's an Oakland-based artist. And he created a piece that pays homage to Radio Raheem from Do the Right Thing. And so from that scene, where, basically the term boycott sales came to be, where there was an Italian-owned pizzeria and an African-American-owned, primarily African-American dominated neighborhood, and they never, put anything African-American on the walls in their establishment just to say, we appreciate you guys as customers. And there was a whole scene where a fight broke out, and the neighborhood was just at odds, and Radio Raheem ended up being choked out by police, which, if you think fast forward to today's times, like it's very, very, realistic. And so we brought that piece back to life through Milton's skills, and there's just some few more personal things about who we are as Slim Huskies in that painting. And then X Payne is a Nashville-based artist who put together a piece of us, more of like a black pop art piece that goes in the space as well, showing the background is with palm trees and just West Coast feels. And then Dojo is another Nashville-based artist that put a signature piece from School Days where Lawrence Fishburne screams "Wake up" to his campus that was also facing issues, that Black America has been forced to face for hundreds of years. So, we just basically wanted to use art to tell our story as well, and, where some of our concerns are with our community, and educate others who might not understand, through basically eating our pizza and sitting in our establishment and just learning.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think those are all of my questions. Is there anything else that you think is important to say about your restaurant, who y'all are as people coming to Sacramento?
Yeah, I just want to, say, man, we are so appreciative to be here and just so humbled by the initial response from the Sacramento community. And we're going to do our best job to be the best, business we can be, provide the best service and opportunities for those here in Sacramento. And, we appreciate feedback. So if you come in and you ever have an issue, like, we're not one of those companies that shies away from getting better. We're just getting started, and, we're just proud and happy we can, open up shop here in Sacramento, California.